Hello and welcome to All About Cars, and today we'll tell you which is a better buy, the Honda City or the Hyundai Verna. We'll also tell you all about the new Nissan Magnite. We'll tell you about a new entry-level luxury car that's also an expensive proposition, and then of course we'll take your questions. So first, let's start with the Audi Q2. The Audi Q2 is priced at 35 lakhs ex-showroom. It is Audi's most affordable car in the Indian market, and it only comes with one engine and gearbox option. So you've got a 2-liter direct injection turbocharged engine. It's coupled to a 7-speed DSG gearbox, and it's quattro, so all-wheel drive, depending on, it's an on-demand all-wheel drive system. Now, if you want the real luxury Audi experience, we don't think the Q2 is the way to go. But if you want to step into the luxury world, maybe it's a great stepping point into that segment. But for what the Q2 is, I mean, it's a small car. It's smaller than, let's say, the Hyundai Creta. And you might get bells and whistles. Now, we don't know how it is to drive. We haven't driven it, and we believe that it will be nice to drive. But the whole overall luxury experience, I think the Q2 might not be the car to feel that or experience that in. But yeah, I mean, if you're upgrading and you want that luxury badge, sure, the Q2 does make sense. Now let's talk about the Nissan Magnite. Nissan Magnite, the Magnite is Nissan's make or break model in India. We know that Nissan's not really been doing well. They've tried a lot of models, they've tried various segments. And the Kicks was their strongest attempt at the Indian market to draw in customers. Unfortunately, maybe it's the lack of the know-how about the car, plus the lack of enough dealerships around. But the Kicks has not done as well as it should. The Magnite, now the Magnite needs to do well for Nissan if it needs to survive in the Indian market. There's a lot of investment that's already gone in. The Magnite is a sub-4-meter SUV. It will go up against the likes of the Maruti Suzuki Brezza, the Hyundai Venue, the Kia Sonet, all of that. And it will come with the option of the 1-liter turbocharged petrol engine. There is talk about it coming with a naturally aspirated 1-liter engine as well, the same one that we've seen on the Triber, but that might not be the option to go for with the Magnite. You want that spread of torque that a turbocharged engine gives you, and it will come with the option of a manual and an automatic. The automatic probably will be a CVT. The USP for that car would probably be the design. I think it's a nice looking car. We've seen it in the flesh. The pictures do justice for what the car looks like, but it is one of the strong reasons to buy this car would be the way it looks. Even on the inside, the instrument cluster is nice to look at. You get wireless charging. There are a lot of connectivity options. You'll have a 360-degree camera. So lots of stuff to like and reasons to buy. The question will be what price it will come at. I think the launch is scheduled for early next year, calendar year, maybe January, February. We'll know what the pricing is then. And it will be a car to look forward to. You will also have the Renault Kiger, which is the Renault version of the same car, same platform. It'll of course have a completely different design, but the philosophy, the engine, the drivetrain, the suspension, etc. would essentially be the same. So Magnite, it is an exciting prospect, and more importantly, it is really, really important for it to do well if Nissan has to survive and succeed in India. And now let's take some questions, and like we said at the start of the video, we will talk about the Hyundai Verna versus the Honda City, which is the better buy. That's the question we've got from Bhima, and he's asked us which car is better, the Honda City or the Hyundai Verna, and he's specifically asked which of the two, I mean, he's asking about the petrol engine, and he wants to know which is the better built petrol engine. So I don't think there is any that you can really choose, or we're qualified enough to say which is a better built engine. Now in terms of performance, we can talk about it, horsepower, output figures. These are similar in terms of refinement. The Verna is slightly more refined than the City, but overall as cars, I think if you want space, if you want that higher level of comfort, then the Honda City is the car to go for, and we're talking about the all-new City. If you want something that has more feel-good factor, when you step inside, something that feels more luxurious, the design that excites you more, the Verna is the car to go for. It just feels more plush than the City does, and even in terms of driving, Hyundai has really upped the game with the Verna. Earlier Vernas used to be pretty bad, but now the new Verna, and we have one on a long term, they drive wonderfully well. So that's the choice you need to make. Both good cars. We can't really tell you which is a better built petrol engine, but buy the City if you want space, comfort. Buy the Verna if you want that feel-good factor, and of course it's good to drive as well. Now we'll take questions that we've received as comments in our last week's video. So thank you so much for writing in. And first up is Shreyas, and Shreyas is asking, will Tata ever launch a more powerful Tiago, let's say a turbo petrol? So Tiago as a car and positioning and segment is a value for money proposition. The moment you add performance, the moment you add a turbocharged engine and you chase performance, you're going to lose that cost effectiveness and things are going to get expensive. We've seen the JTP. Tata did that with the Tigor and the Tiago. Not many people showed interest. I mean, they showed interest, but nobody really bought it. And eventually the joint venture was shut. So we don't think a more sportier, more powerful version of the Tiago is on the cards. Vilavan asks us, Kia itself is a new brand and Sonet has just been launched. Don't know why you've claimed, now we claimed in the last week's video. We didn't really claim, we commented that the Kia Sonet would be more reliable than the Nexon, which has been in the market for last 3 years. So like we said last week, the Kia Sonet is heavily based on the Hyundai Venue. The Hyundai Venue has been in the market for long. There are lots of sales for the car, way more than the Nexon sells on a monthly basis. And so a lot of people are using it, a lot of people are using it in different conditions, and nothing has come back says that it's not reliable. We've had a various number of test cars, and again, we've not seen anything, like things not working. Similarly, for the Kia Sonet, we've had at least 3 different test cars. We've driven them in various conditions and nothing has, we've not seen anything crop up. With the Nexon, and you're right, it's been in the market for 3 years, and we're talking about the car that we drove initially. There were some issues. Tata has worked towards that. They have solved them. We drove one recently, and we didn't have any issues on that car. So maybe the reliability has improved dramatically, but that's what Tata has been working towards, and that's what we said last time, that they're working towards it. And but for us to completely believe that every product that comes out of Tata is going to be spot on in terms of reliability and will not have any issues, that would take some time. And for that to happen, Tata will have to continue to deliver fantastic, no issue products, launch after launch after launch. Right, so that's the difference. But yeah, you're right. The new Nexon is now reliable. We have not seen any issue with it. Similarly with the Kia Sonet. Mohit Gupta has asked us which car should he go for. He's clearly a Hyundai fan. He's asked us whether he should go for the i10 Nios Sports, should he go for the i20, or should he go for the Venue. Now, he says he's given the versions Sport Plus for the i20, S Plus for the Venue, and he says they're similarly priced, I mean a lakh here and there, and he wants to know whether it makes sense to spend that extra money and go for the i20 or the Venue compared to the i10 Nios. So firstly, I think you can remove the i20 from the list because there's a brand new i20 coming, and I think it should be launched next month. Latest by next month, and till we don't drive that, though we think that it will be a good car given what Hyundai has been producing in the recent past, but we've not driven it, so we won't recommend it right now. So that leaves you with the Venue or the i10 Nios. Venue has its pluses. It's an SUV, which means you're not worried about poor roads or high speed breakers. It's more practical because you've got a bigger boot. It's easier to get in and get out of. You have better visibility, all of that. But if you're, let's say, you're single or just a couple or a family of 3 or 4 small kids, Then, and you're not really looking for a lot of practicality, you're essentially looking for transportation, you want something to commute on and maybe head out with just the family, then yes, I think the i10, it would be smarter to save the lakh and go for the i10. It's also easier to park and live with. So that's what we'd recommend. But if you want some amount of practicality, let's say you want to throw in some luggage on and off, you want to fold the seats, you want to carry something on and off, then maybe the Venue is a better option. But yeah, as since you've not clarified, and if I just look at what you want to use in the city, the Nios makes sense. Save the money, go for the Nios. Now Saurabh has asked us about the new Land Rover Defender, and he's asked us, does it take away from the car's capability, from the old Defender's capability, moving from body on ladder to monocoque? So I don't think that's true. I think it's better that the Defender is now a monocoque. A, it's lighter. You've also got a stiffer body shell, and that allows you to do a lot of things with the suspension and electronics, which is the sole thing that gives the new Defender its ability, and I think it's more capable than the older one. This stiff monocoque, or going for a monocoque, also allows you higher safety rating, better NVH. So overall, the experience is much nicer having moved to monocoque from the age-old body on ladder. Body on ladder, more rugged, agreed, maybe simpler in a way, but monocoque is the way to go, and we've seen that in the most demanding SUVs today. Monocoque is what everybody's chasing, and we have the tech, we have the engineering now to produce really good, capable monocoques even off-road. Rajesh Kumar has asked us, will the European version of the Volkswagen Polo come to India anytime soon? So that's not really going to happen. As part of the India 2.0 strategy, the Volkswagen Group, which means Skoda and Volkswagen, they will launch your SUVs first based on the MQB IN A0 platform, which is like an India-specific MQB platform. We will see the Vision Ion from Skoda, we will see the Taygun from Volkswagen. So those are the cars that will come first next year. Both these companies will work towards building that up, and then we will probably see new versions of the Vento and the Rapid. But the European version of the Volkswagen Polo, I don't think is going to come anytime soon, if at all. It is an expensive car, everything about it is more expensive than what we want to pay for or deliver in India. So I wouldn't have my hopes up for that. We have another question, but the person hasn't left their name, but it's an important question. It says, when will Gravitas be launched? The Tata Gravitas, that's what the question asks. And the person wants to know whether the Innova is a better option or the Scorpio is a better option. So that's the essential thing. So Gravitas should have come by now. It is for those not in the know, it is the 3-row version of the Tata Harrier, a slightly different design towards the end. And it was showcased at the Expo. It was supposed to be launched. It's not launched. I think everybody's launch timelines are delayed thanks to COVID. But it should be out, if not during the festive season, which means next month, then early next year. Now, if you want to choose between the Scorpio and the Innova, I would say Innova hands down. I don't know what purpose you want it for, but as products go, and if you can afford the Innova is a more expensive proposition, but if you can, then Innova is the one to go for, no two ways about that. Another Tata question, and this time it's from Vinay. He wants to know, when will the Tata Harrier be launched with the 1.5 litre petrol engine? So the 1.5 litre turbocharged petrol engine is very much on cards. It is an extension of the 1.2 3-cylinder turbo engine that we see on the Nexon. Tata has that engine ready. It's been running it on the Harrier, but they have not clearly said when they want to launch it. I think the smart thing for Tata would be to launch it as soon as possible, because there is a shift towards petrol engines, and we've seen it with its competition, be it MG, Hector, that there is a demand for petrol powered SUVs now. The sooner they get that, the better it would probably be for the Harrier, because not only will it give people an option, but it will drop the Harrier's price by almost ₹1,00,000, the entry-level price, because that's the difference between going for a petrol and a diesel, especially in this class of cars. Next up, we've got Raj, and he wants to know which is a good petrol manual SUV to buy for about 13 lakhs. So we'd say that there are two options that you could look at. If you like driving, there's the Seltos and there's the Duster 1.3 Turbo. The Duster 1.3 Turbo is more exciting, there's more torque steer, there's nicer performance. It's not as refined, it's not as modern looking, feeling as the Seltos, but it's, I mean, you're more connected to it. It's a little raw, but it's more analog and less digital compared to the Seltos. The Seltos is of course more comfortable, more refined, so that's the choice that you can make between the Duster 1.3 and the Seltos. Jagdish wants to know which is better, front wheel drive or rear wheel drive. Now there's no easy answer to this one. We'd say front wheel drive is a great option for regular commute oriented vehicles, because you don't have a shaft going at the back, it's lighter, it's more efficient. And it's probably safer, because you'd probably just get understeer in a wet, slippery situation, while in the rear wheel drive you will probably have the car swinging at you, so you'll need a little more skills to catch it. So for commuter centric and efficient, if efficiency is there, then of course front wheel drive is the way to go, and that's why all modern cars that we buy today, almost everything is front wheel drive. Rear wheel drive is more pure because you have the power going at the back, and the front is just left to do what it was intended for, which is to steer the car, while in front wheel drive you also have to steer and the power is also going. So you got to, the steering feel, for instance, gets affected in some way. But the rear wheel drive setup is a sportier setup, is a more involving setup. It is a more mature setup, as in it is more for the mature, more able driver, but it is of course more entertaining. So that's the difference between front wheel drive and rear wheel drive. If you are also wondering why do we have rear wheel drive for most SUVs, especially body on ladder, because when you get into sticky, difficult situations, when you want traction, when you're, let's say, going up an incline or whatever, it's just a lot easier for the push against pull, which is rear wheel drive is pushing the car, the front wheel drive is pulling the car, and that's the difference. Push always works better than pull, especially in these situations, so that's probably one of the reasons why it has. And now let's take questions from our social media handles, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And let's start with Varun. Varun wants to know, he wants to buy a family car under 10 lakh rupees and wants to know what he should go for. If you're not in a hurry, Varun, then maybe you'd want to wait for the i20. It should be launched next month, so that might be something that you might look at. But if you want something now, then I think if your space and efficiency is a priority, the Maruti Baleno is a good option. If you want more driving involvement, then you probably will need to spend a little more to find something that's nicer in that sense. You could also look at SUVs if you want. There are lots of options. So for us to pick, we'd say the Baleno among hatchbacks. You could look at the Venue among compact SUVs. And if you want a compact sedan, then you've got the Honda Amaze. That's also a nice car, spacious, practical. So these are the options. Chetan from Bangalore, he's asking us, when would we see the next generation of the Duster, and when it does come, will it come with the diesel? That's a question that we don't really have an answer to. Renault has upgraded the Duster now. Yes, it's not the new generation Duster. It's more like a nip and tuck. But Renault has very clearly said that they're not looking at diesels. They probably don't have BS6 compliant diesels that would also fit the cost equation. So I wouldn't wait for the next generation Duster. I wouldn't wait for a Renault diesel. If you like the Duster for what it is today, go for it, but we're not sure and that it'll come to India at all. Rishabh is asking us, he is clearly a Kia fan. He's asking us whether he should buy the Seltos or the Sonet. For the Seltos, it's the HTK Plus, and for the Sonet, it is GTX Plus IMT. Now he wants to know in terms of space, payload, build quality, is Seltos really that much better over the Sonet that he should go for it? And even in terms of performance, he wants to know which is, is the Seltos so much better than the Sonet that he should pay extra for it? He says his driving is really limited in the city to maybe 10 to 12 kilometers a day. Is it a lot better? It is better in various ways, especially when it comes to space. But otherwise, if space is not really a concern, then the Sonet would probably be better value. I mean, if you're going to use it in the city, it's smaller, it's easier to park, it's not short on equipment, it's not short on driver involvement, driving feel, performance, especially in the city. So if I were you and I didn't need the space, I'd save the money and go for the Sonet than for the Seltos. Lilima has asked us which is better, the Altroz XZ petrol, the Hyundai Aura, or the Dzire ZXi. So we'd say if you are looking for space and practicality, the Dzire is a nice option. It's a wide car, you have a good amount of interior space, the boot is surprisingly big. The Aura in comparison is narrower, but the Aura is a newer car. So in terms of look and feel and quality, it just makes you feel better about your purchase compared to the Dzire. And it's also very nice to drive. The Altroz is a great hatchback, but it is let down by its petrol engine. What it needs is a turbo petrol, given the size of the car, the weight of the car, for it to really feel like a great car. But again, if you're not chasing performance, then again the Altroz works. Interior space is great. Boot maybe not as good as the Dzire, but in terms of space, in terms of the way it looks, all of that, even the ride and handling is very impressive on the Altroz. So we've given you the basic points about these three cars. Our recommendation would be to go drive them, depending on what is really important to you, space, looks, features, feel good, all of that, and then you can decide. Between hatchbacks and compact sedans, personally, I prefer hatchbacks because they are purer in terms of design, in terms of their purpose, and unless I need to stuff my boot with various things and keep stuff in it all the time, I don't want a bigger boot. Hatchback works for me. But again, with the Altroz, a nice turbo engine would have made it a fantastic no-brainer. And that's a wrap on All About Cars. Thank you so much for your questions. And we will have something more interesting to talk about next week. Maybe which two cars to choose between and some new industry buzz. So come back for that, and thank you for watching.